Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, a top regional official says that communities are facing starvation because of what he calls a deliberate campaign to prevent farming in Ethiopia's turbulent northern region of Tigray. Also, with Islamist extremism beginning to expand south beyond the Sahel, an anti-terror academy has been built in Ivory Coast to help educate a new generation of leaders in the fight against terrorism. And in Senegal, the pressure caused by the pandemic has hit the economy hard, and women are often the most vulnerable to the disruptive effects. But still, they persevere. We meet some of the workers keeping the fishing industry ticking over in Senegal. But first, the deputy head of Tigray's interim government has said that there is a deliberate campaign to stop farming in the Ethiopian region. Tigray has been a hotspot for humanitarian and human rights concerns ever since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent in troops against fighters backing the once dominant TPLF party. Now, although the government has said that tensions have calmed in the northern region, fighting continues. Maria Nicolescu tells us more.
There have been several warnings issued over the past months about malnutrition and possible famine in some areas of the Tigray region. But this statement was made by a member of the region's interim administration, Deputy Head Abebe Gebrehiwot. Without mentioning who exactly is responsible, he said that a deliberate campaign, including by people tasked with law enforcement, was preventing Tigrayans from farming, as well as blocking seeds from reaching some areas, including the town of Shire, where tens of thousands of displaced people have found refuge because of the ongoing fighting. The conflict has been going on for over 6 months now. Aid organizations have repeatedly pointed to an ongoing humanitarian catastrophe. Aid is not reaching all areas, and leaked documents have shown that Eritrean soldiers have been looting and blocking supplies. The government in Addis Ababa is promising a return to normalcy. It said that the last round of aid has reached 2.7 million people in Tigray. It also promised that Eritrean troops will withdraw from the region, but so far there has been no evidence to support this. As elections are approaching, the conflict in Tigray is continuing to spark dissent among communities in Ethiopia. One of the latest controversies being the head of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church accusing the Ethiopian government of wanting to destroy the Tigray region.
Maria Nicolescu there for us. A look now at some news in brief. Hundreds of South Africans turned out in protest in Cape Town on Tuesday, condemning Israeli attacks on Palestinians that have left at least 28 Palestinians dead since Monday night. Demonstrations were also held in Johannesburg. South Africa is among around 130 countries that recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. At least 3 Israelis have been killed as fresh airstrikes were launched on Gaza on Tuesday. Palestinian militants also targeted Israel with rockets. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said that he condemns Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the African Union's spoken out against the targeting of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, in which hundreds of worshippers were injured. Kenya's suspended flights between Nairobi and Mogadishu for 3 months. No reason yet for the move, but it does come just days after Somalia said that months of tension between the neighbours had been resolved. Mogadishu cut off diplomatic ties with Kenya last December after the country hosted leaders of Somaliland, a breakaway state not recognised by Somalia. Wealthy countries from the G7 group have pledged $389 million to help communities affected by Nigeria's Boko Haram insurgency. The money will help support the millions who are facing humanitarian hardship because of over a decade of violence from the extremists. More than 30,000 people have been killed since the conflict began in 2009. Now, with Islamist extremism beginning to expand south beyond the Sahel, an anti-terror academy has been built in Ivory Coast. Once completed, the Franco-Ivorian project will serve as a facility to educate a new generation of leaders in the fight against terrorism. Parts of the site are already operational, with more than 300 interns from across the region being trained there already. Sam Bradpeace tells us more.
This operation may have neutralized the jihadist threat. It was just an exercise, but the soldiers have been trained to gather and analyze the clues.
This can allow us to obtain information which can then give useful intelligence we can use in a short and medium term.
The non-commissioned officers training here have come from all over Africa.
We'll be able to apply this knowledge, we'll be able to pass those who are under my command so that we can be able to at least transfer the skills to them so that when they're in the field fighting the Al-Shabaab, they can be able to apply the skills.
To combat jihadist advances in the Sahel and the rest of the continent, an ambitious project led by France and Ivory Coast is beginning to take hold, the International Academy in the fight against terrorism.
Just to the right, we have the university which will house the Institute of Strategic Research. Opposite us, there is the building for the Major General, the command structure, the leaders.
1,200 hectares of forest and training grounds surround this complex. A fake hotel, a mock-up Sahelian village, an adaptable hangar, a firing range, all linked up by laterite trails.
We're now going to the checkpoint zone, which will allow us to train people on how to run a checkpoint or how to approach a checkpoint in a convoy.
Once fully launched, this site will be able to welcome 200 trainees per session, training them in all aspects of anti-terror activity.
This is the first time that we've brought a global response to the fight against terrorism. We're working on 4 key points, which are anticipation, management of the crisis when we're faced with a terrorist attack, the investigation process that follows a terrorist attack, and then the 4th point, which is hindrance, making things more and more difficult for the terrorists.
The first part of the facility will be officially inaugurated soon.
Well, Nigeria has brought in tighter coronavirus restrictions in a bid to put the brake on a rise in cases and ease the pressure on the country's health systems. Face masks now have to be worn in public buildings, and clubs and bars will remain shut. Gatherings of over 50 people are also banned. Now, as richer countries continue to pull ahead in the global race against COVID, many African nations are still wrestling with a second or even third wave of infections. In Senegal, the pressures hit the economy hard, as elsewhere on the continent. And women are often the most vulnerable to the effects of the disruption, but still they persevere. This report from fishing communities in Senegal.
For decades in the small town of Bargny, south of Dakar, women have played a major role in the fishing sector. They dry, smoke and salt the fish before it is sold. Their activity was badly hit by the coronavirus.
Covid bi moom yàqal na ñu dëgg ndax ñun fi la ñu amoon te bi Covid bi amee liggéeyuñu fi ñoo ngi dem toog suñu kër yi suñuy góor yi bu ñu demee duñu am dara saa ñu am saa duñu am dañuy toog suñu néeg ba ngoon jot ñu dem wut li suñu xale yi lekk du ñëw jël leen ndax booba amuñu fu ñu aw amuñu fu ñu liggéey te fii doxul woon waaw dëgg yàlla yàqal na ñu moom.
Fishing represents 16% of all Senegal's export revenue. The virus brought an entire economic system to a halt.
Le Covid a bouleversé notre travail et notre vie. Depuis il y a Covid, nous vivons dans des craintes. Nous avons peur d'aller loin pour être affectés par le Covid-19.
Before the coronavirus, fishing boats would each carry around 50 fishermen. But during the height of the pandemic, only a few would go out to sea. In recent weeks, the number of COVID-19 cases has gone down, and the economic activity has picked up once again on the coasts of Senegal.
In what's been hailed a milestone for the region, a huge new bridge was unveiled on the border between Botswana and Zambia this week. The Kazungula Bridge stretches for over 923 metres over the Zambezi River and is likely to have a big impact on lowering the cost of freight in southern Africa. The €213 million project began back in 2014, co-funded by the African Development Bank and the Japan International Cooperation Agency. It'll mean that trucks can now bypass the Bight Bridge border post between Zimbabwe and South Africa, where congestion can sometimes mean vehicles can take days queuing to cross. The new bridge will very literally open up new avenues for trade. Well, we'll have to leave it for now. Thanks very much for joining us. Do so again if you can. Take care.